Randy, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for the invite. I'm excited and nervous, equal parts.
No, there's nothing. Listen, we've been talking like for the last 10, 20 minutes. We're just going to keep talking. So,
Okay.
look, you're running for city council
I am.
of Caldwell.
Yes,
You're running against Chuck.
I
Great.
am.
I actually just published Chuck's episode this morning, but we're talking about what you want to bring, what you think you can offer. You want to talk about the airport, which is great. I don't know anything about it, but look, why are you running for city council?
Well, there's the sappy reason. I'm a builder. I'm one of the Satan people that the anti-growth people don't like, but I'm born and raised in Caldwell, born in 1971. I've chosen out of 54 years of existence, I've probably lived in Caldwell 49 of those years, raised my kids there. I'm a graduate of Caldwell. Just chose to have a life there. And I do believe what Benjamin Franklin said, when we have to give back to our industry and our community. I believe that. Being a builder has put my kids through school, activities. Neither one of my kids go to college. My daughter's in the military, Air Force, and my son's a driver for UPS. But it gave them our lifestyle. And I feel I have to give back. I give back in my industry. I try to teach kids. I used to sit on a board for NAMPA for students that wanted to get into the trades, because I'm an electrical contractor as well. So I'm big into the trades. And I've obviously, as an electrical contractor, we teach apprentices, and I love that teaching aspect. Well, now I have an opportunity to give back to my community, and that's how I see it. I think it's an obligation. I really do. Now, from a policy side, I think that nobody on city council has ever had to make payroll. And I'll be blunt. I haven't taken a paycheck out of my company in the last 8 months, but all my guys get paid. That's first and foremost. We've been a little slow with the interest rates and the economy and uncertainty. Election years are always bad. But that brings a level of stewardship for money and budgeting, and do we really need to spend this money? And I've just seen some things that I don't think there's ever ill will with our current city council. I just think they don't necessarily have the same fundamental beliefs of why we need to spend money, or do we need to spend it today? And partially, I think it's just time for some change. There's a lot of hate. And I think sometimes just shuffling the deck is what's needed. And I think that's what we need. I quite honestly think almost all 6 of them need replaced over the next couple of years, just for change. Chuck's a great guy. I'm running against him. We talked about him a little bit. I've counseled with him. He's counseled back on airport stuff, building stuff, fire suppression stuff. And I still look for his counsel today. He looks for mine. I will continue to look for his if I win. And if he wins, he'll continue to look for mine. So, and I told him, I said, Chuck, it's kind of like a game of poker. We're just changing some cards. That's all it is. We may not believe the same way on everything, but he did tell me he was one of my guys I wanted to talk to when I was asked to run. I value his opinion. He is a senior councilman, not because of age, because of his time on the council. He said, at least I know you'll vote what's best for the city. And that was the biggest endorsement I could get from him. He goes, we don't agree. I'm a builder, so I'm more pro-growth than he is. But he says, I know you'll vote your heart and you'll vote the city. And I thought that was a big compliment, because that's what I will do. It is all about the city. And as a builder, I build custom homes. I don't build specs, So I spend a lifetime building people what they want, listening to people, spending other people's money, being accountable for their dollars, where the money goes. And my job in that role is to say, this is what it costs. And I try to get everything to a yes or no answer. And I've testified to city council, and I've said that many times. I try to get everything to a yes or no. And I think that's missing in our city council, listening and getting it simplified down through the process to yes or no's. Anyway, that's a long answer.
Dude, no. I appreciate all of it. You wouldn't be running unless you felt like there were some problems. Talk to me about
100%.
What you think is a problem in Caldwell.
So again, 26 years in business. I'm not new to business. And so I know what it's like. I broke about 125 projects. So that's 125 different people I've had to deal with on a lot of scale, different subs, different inspectors. So I know how to interact with people. And the one thing I've learned is obviously transparency, but transparency is a quick word to throw out.
It's a catch-all. Everybody's like, we need more transparency.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
But what does it really mean? Well, what it means is accountability and get people in the room and have the conversation. As an example, I had a little incident with the city of Caldwell. I had to call the mayor, and because the mayor has always told me, Randy, you ever have an issue, give me a call. I finally cashed that shit in, and I said, Mr. Mayor, I need help, and I was mad. I had to call a couple other people. I said, I'm about ready to go scorched earth here. I'm a little upset. The mayor got the people in the room. We had about an hour and a half conversation. I'm heated in a sense. Nobody yelled. We're not that.
Sure.
But a matter of fact, and we all walked out of that. Problem solved. Everybody gave a little. And I even took a minute to say, look, Randy's not just fighting to fight. Here's why. And they did the same back. We knew where everybody was coming from. When we talk about parking meters, fortunately, I didn't have to vote on that, but I have an opinion on it. The hotel, the quiet zone, all those things. Perception has been very, very poor. And I'm a believer perception is people's reality, and their reality, whether right or wrong, is their beliefs that set.
Right.
And so I just think that there's not enough conversation, not enough talking. The parking meters is an example. I went to half dozen of those parking things. A lot of people had a lot of time to talk, but there's still a facet group that says they didn't get heard. Then maybe there needed to be one or two more meetings. Kick the can down the road. We don't have to solve the problems today. It can be solved next month. And I just think that's what has happened. There's just lack of transparency, aka accountability, spending the time to listen. And when it comes to airport stuff, I have only had my voice heard because I make it get heard. I've called the majority of the city councilmen personally, had them over to my office. We've had conversations where I'm not sitting here looking at my watch, checking text. You have my attention. Right. Listen. And that's how I've got it heard. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to be a little assertive sometimes to get your point across. And I want to ease that as a city councilman. And I tell people, I spoke to a group just real quick. I wasn't even asked to speak. I was just in the room. But I said, I want to be the candidate that you can talk to. Don't talk about me. Talk to me. And I make myself very available. I have great staff. I can spend, sometimes I don't want to, but I can spend hours and hours a day talking to people. And that's what I think you need to do. And I just think that's missing.
Gotcha.
I know I got long answers.
No, listen. This is the whole point. Like, we have to have these conversations with people to understand, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we gotta hit some stuff, but like, we still have to have the conversation. So
100%.
Talk to me about, you brought up two things, parking meters and the hotel, right? The quiet zone, I'm not familiar with that, but again, it's the parking meters and hotels are really the like notorious pieces that people have been talking about. Talk to me about those two.
So parking meters, I again, half dozen or so of the meetings. I wasn't even running for city council at the time. This is quite a while back. I was there because we have a parking problem downtown. Again, born and raised in downtown. Born and raised in Caldwell. I've spent countless hours downtown. I have actually done 8 of the buildings downtown. I have spent a lot of time downtown. We would have to show up at 5:36 in the morning to park our work trucks because parking's a problem.
Right.
So I'm not one that gets mad when I'm in traffic. Traffic's traffic. Oh, I hate this, but okay, I'm here, So we have a problem. What's the solution to that problem? Well, I tell people when we talk, and I'm probably the most unpolitically correct guy you'll meet because of what I do for a living, but we can't regulate common decency. And a lot of the employees that work downtown park downtown. And you can't do that when there's a limited number of parking spots and you're spending all day taking those parking spots. So the parking meters would have fixed that. And then the idea of it was outside money coming in to help fund coffers to fix a long-term parking problem. How can you not support that? But the perception, bad. The way it rolled out, bad. I'm not behind the curtain guy. I'm not in city council. I can only know what I know. Did deals get made outside of the city council? If so, bad. Where the city council lied to from the outside company when they come in with their consultants and stuff. Bad. Although I will tell you, you got to take every consultant when their pay is based on what they're trying to get you to buy. You got to have some skepticism there anyway. So do we, and Stephen Jenkins, our economic director, said, and he doesn't even know me if I walked into his office, but he said in one of the meetings, Caldwell doesn't have a parking problem. We have a walking problem. And there's a lot of truth to that. Every time I go downtown, I find a parking spot. Do I have to walk 3 or 4 blocks? Absolutely. At 54, I'm glad I can still walk 3 or 4 blocks. I walk it, right? Yeah. My excuse to get exercise. My wife and I go downtown quite a bit. We live about 4 miles from downtown, so that's too far to walk. So we always drive to park. We love the food we eat downtown at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. So, but we know we have to park a ways away. It's okay. But there still is a parking problem, and it needs to be addressed. When we go down for the winter wonder lights, it's bad. It's really, really bad. I'm talking just normal every day. It's bad, but it's really bad. So do the parking meters maybe need to be readdressed? Quite possibly. I don't have that answer. I'm not in the room for those conversations, but I would like to be, because I just want to bring a conversation to the room and ask the questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I think that the smartest person in the room is the one that asks the most questions. I really do. And proverbial, there's no stupid question. There can be, but really there isn't.
I ask some pretty dumb ones sometimes. I'm like, oh God, I have to apologize ahead of time. I'm like, I know this is so basic. It'd be somebody coming up and be like, what's the difference between amps and volts? And you're like, okay, here we go.
But now, see, I can spend an hour telling you that.
Yeah.
Hotel. On the surface, when I first saw it come out, I was never in a city council meeting that it was ever. So I was blindsided by it. I happen to own several hangars on the airport. I lease the land from the city of Caldwell. Ergo, the city of Caldwell has a mechanism for lease land.
Sure.
We pay anywhere from 33 to 45 cents a square foot, depending on location, number of things.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yep. So we know. Now, is that common for airports? I don't know what lease land is for commercial like that. Is it more? Is it less? But at least we know we have a starting point. So when I first heard $5,000 lease for land that's probably 20 times the size of what I'm leasing, and I'm paying $5,000 a year, and I'm like, holy cow, what's the problem? What did I do? I called city councilman. Talk to me. Let's go have lunch. And I went to lunch with Mr. Williams. And he explained it to me. Well, at the same time, the airport was what's the word I want to use? Soliciting is not really the word, but we were honeymooning a company to come onto airport property and get them, because lease land, and we needed that for airport revenue. And it was a pretty good sized company. Well, that company has since left Caldwell, and it went to another state and another town that offered them shovel-ready dirt, no impact fees, no building permit fees, and no property taxes for 10 years. So we all know, you're naive to not understand that cities offer incentives for companies to choose Caldwell, Nampa, Boise, whatever it is.
Everybody.
So if that's the incentive, and that's what I'm being told by city councilmen, that was the incentive we offered to them, $5,000 a lease for that land. They still paid full impact fees, full building permit fees, and they're paying full property tax fees. So if that's the case, is it really that bad? And again, I have no skin in this. Is that really that bad? I'm 54 years in Caldwell, and that's been a dirt lot forever. And yeah, it's been used a couple, for rodeo, and it's used for 4-H and all that. But I do believe my city council, as a voter, when they say they are working on plans. Sometimes people just don't like change. And if they don't like change, they're not going to like maybe having to park a little further down the road. I am being very much assured that kids are not having to cross the railroad tracks with their animals, that there's a third of that lot that's going to be reserved for that. I know that one of your interviewers said that attendance was down for 4-H animals or animals. I'm a city boy for Caldwell. Yeah. But I also saw on Facebook that a lot of people were just not participating out of spite. And so you you can't say it's because of the hotel that is down. You really got to look more into it.
From
not
from like a functionality. You're like, hey, it's not that they couldn't find parking. It's not that they couldn't drop off the animals. It is because, or at least some people said, they wouldn't come because they, in principle, objected to the project.
Absolutely.
And that lack of attendance is being blamed on functionality, when in reality, it should be at least like, fine, you didn't show up. Like, we should take that into consideration. But it's not because it wasn't functional. It's because you literally wanted to, object.
Yep. I even saw on Facebook, and I'm very much anti-Facebook, but I even saw
it's
a little
so
bit
dirty.
It's
so crazy.
I was off of it for 9 years, and I had to get back on it to announce my campaign.
Oh my God. You know what it's like? I was telling my buddy this morning, it's like the original concept of the Invisible Man, like that old ass story that, everybody, we have many versions of this, right? Like the original Lord of the Rings with the Gollum character, right? Like that, and the Hobbit. That character was based on the idea that somebody could go and become invisible and learn things about people that everybody was not public knowledge, right? And like, you learn things about, obviously it's like the attractive woman, and it's like all these things, but then it's like, first, that's not meant for you. Like, that's not information you should know about her.
Yeah.
And then you find out about people's personal relationships, and then you find out details of their personal lives and the way they actually think about things that they don't articulate in public. Those characters always become like banished, weird, crazy people. It's never good for the person who learns that. I swear to you, Facebook is the same thing. People are allowed to say things and express things with a frequency and with a megaphone that it's like, you should not be saying that. Like, this is, if we were all sitting in a restaurant, would you just stand up and scream that to the entire crowd? No, but that's what you're doing. And it leads to this insanity where we're like, we're surrounded by crazy people. No, we're surrounded by normal people. They're just telling us things they shouldn't be telling us, be it personalities or whatever.
And they're screaming some of the stuff with no accountability, everything has three sides to the story. Everything. You drinking that cup of coffee has three sides to the story. I watched you make the coffee, you made the coffee, and then there's actually what happened. And so nothing is ever as it seems. And I'm like, just, again, talk to me, not about me. And that's a simple concept. So
bottom line is that the parking meter, you're not against some kind of parking mechanism that draws in value from outside Caldwell while still preserving people's capacity to park downtown, the regulars, right? The natives. And with the hotel, the people that object based on the lease, there are actually absolutely, there is a precedence for incentivization structures to bring people in, because with that hotel, they also brought impact fees and they pay permit fees, and then obviously there will be the benefit of the hotel. I don't think you guys have an auditorium district, but like in the event that there is one, that would be something contributing. So you felt like there were, with the parking meters, you wouldn't mind seeing different iterations of that. It just seems like that was a bad one. And then with a hotel, there are pluses and minuses, but from at the very least the incentivization, that's a normal thing.
Absolutely.
Got it.
And then when I hear people say that that's a poor location for a hotel, I have to say, as a builder and an investor in real estate, I have to make my own decision whether this is a good location for X, Y, or Z. Who am I to tell a hotel that's a bad location? And it's funny, a lot of these people that say that's a bad location due to the railroad tracks or the rodeo or whatever, literally say right on the other side of the railroad tracks is a parking lot. Why didn't we put the hotel there? Well, you just shot yourself in the foot with your own argument. If it wasn't good on the south side of the railroad tracks, why is it okay on the north side? So I think that's a dead argument when people are saying that's a bad location. Somebody is investing tens of millions of dollars into a hotel. It's up to them to decide if that's a good location or not.
And
now,
people staying in a hotel probably don't want to cross railroad tracks just to get to downtown.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
at least I don't know. I would assume. I would really want to.
I got to be honest. I don't even know if I would notice I was crossing railroad tracks as I'm looking. Where am I going to eat? Oh, okay. Let's just walk there, Yeah. Who knows? But the other thing is, I do believe city council has an obligation, and I do hear Chuck say this, and I commend him for this. It does the city no good for somebody to build a hotel that is not going to work, and then it becomes an abandoned building or a dilapidated building or whatever that could be. So there is conversation. Now, I'm not privy to those conversations because A, I'm not on city council, and B, it just was something I can't be at every city council meeting when I'm not on city council because I still have a life. And so when I would go, I would always go for airport stuff or building stuff, things that I'm well versed in because I'm going to get up and speak normally when I go. I don't go just for entertainment. And so I just missed all the hotel stuff. So that's kind of my take there. But the main problem I see with the hotel is it came right on the backs of bad mojo with parking meters. And now it seems like a city council's not listening. They're not getting the information out. Things like that. For instance, a lot of people may never have even thought $5,000 lease, that was their only incentive. And understand, did we give Home Depot an incentive? I don't know, but quite possibly. Who knows?
Probably.
Fred Meyer that's coming. Quite possibly, right? Yeah. So what are these standard incentives? Because that's stuff that maybe is kept a little close to the chest, and maybe there's some legalities that it has to be up until it doesn't. And then if it can be released, let's release that and at least let the public know why we're doing some of these things. And then again, that's a perception problem, and people's perceptions, their reality, right or wrong, it's their belief.
Right. That's their worldview.
That's a worldview.
Talk to me about law enforcement in Caldwell.
Yeah. Fortunately, I don't have a ton of run-in with them. I've had a few, but not a ton. But here's what I will say. 6 months ago, I didn't know Chief Ingram. Not at all. I wouldn't have known him if I walked into the restaurant and other than wearing a uniform. Sitting right there. But going to city council meetings that I have been, I've gotten banter dialogue because he sees me all the time. We eat at enough restaurants. I'll see him out there. And
sure,
that created more dialogue, right? But what I will tell you is I ran into him at an event. And I said, I really want to spend more time talking to you. He immediately gave his phone number, and we have now spent a lot of time talking. I give a bunch of kudos to that. He doesn't know me from Adam. He didn't know I was going to run for city council. At the time, I asked him, I wasn't running for city council. I just wanted to have some conversation.
Right.
And I'm a taxpayer of Caldwell. I want to know where some money's going. And he's been way accessible. And that is high up on my list. I did spend a little time talking to him yesterday, just get some facts straight. Last night was at the Merrill Roundtable Forum thing. Somebody asked the question about property violence or property crime going through the roof, or I don't quite remember how they described it. Well, I know that's not true because I trust what Chief Ingram tells me, and he tells me property crimes are down. Chuck said the same thing in his interview. Grand theft is up, and I didn't see the rape one, but Chuck had mentioned that too. So I would say, based on, again, what I do for a living is numbers, proof in the pudding. You tell me you're the greatest drywall guy in the world, I'm going to see it the minute you start. And so there's proof in the pudding. His numbers are good. I am very complimentary of him. I think his staff is doing well. I like his forward thinking with the drone. I did not get to see anything of it. I will be honest, when I heard a $1.8 million drone program over 5 years, my eyebrows raised.
You're like, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. We just lost that in impact fees, and now we're, but.
Bro, the impact
I know,
fees.
and we could have.
explained that to me. I was like, whoa.
Yep. And we can circle around to that because that's my world. That's my wheelhouse. So I love the forward thinking, but more than anything, what I really am admiring with Chief Ingram is accessibility. And to me, law enforcement, you need to be accessible. You need to be out there. I see him at so many functions. Does he have to be there? Maybe. Does he have? I don't know. But I see him at most of the city council meetings. I see him stay and let the other officers go. I've seen that countless times. I respect that. He could probably go home. But no, he sticks around and lets the officers leave that are there for the security. So just much kudos. Born and raised in Caldwell, I've never felt it super unsafe. I don't ever remember a time in my life where I'm like, I don't want to walk downtown. But I do know it's not what it was. We're not the gang hub that we used to be probably in the 90s. Again, I don't remember. I mean, my gosh, I remember walking downtown at 2:00 in the morning more than once. I don't ever remember I was going to be unsafe, but I sure know now I don't feel I'd be unsafe. And so there's something to be said for that. Again, my perception, my reality, that's my belief. I don't feel I'm unsafe. I see cops all the time. My building got shot twice. I called the officer or the non-emergency line. There was somebody there within 45 minutes. I thought that was a responsible time. It was a non-emergency. I don't need you there in 2 minutes, lights rolling.
Wait, was it like a drive-by shooting? What do you mean they shot your building twice?
So in my office, my ceilings are 28 foot tall in the conference room area, which is in the front of my office. And we're sitting there in a meeting, and I'm leaning back, and I have this old rusty metal up on the wall. And I'm looking up there, and I'm like, what is that? There's a hole up there. So I run upstairs. Well, I don't have stairs. I climbed a ladder to get upstairs to the little loft area, and it's a hole, and I follow it into the wall, and I 45 caliber bullet in my building. So
do you have any idea how long it had been there?
No idea. None. And I'm right along the freeway. So I'm on the Caldwell Airport. So it's right. My building is noticeable from the freeway. And so I call an officer. He shows up, and I'm like, dude, don't take the bullet. I got to have the conversation. He goes, do you want to make a police report? I said, do you got to take the bullet if I make a police report? He says, well, yeah. I said, no, I don't want to make a police report. It's done. What can I do about it? So he let me keep the bullet. He actually took a police report, or a quick one, and he let me keep the bullet. Still sits in my conference table. We have a conversation about it. Well, then
maybe you never come to an office meeting at your place.
About 3 weeks later, we're out in the hangar side, and I notice a hole in some white metal. And I'm like, what the? So I run outside, and there's another bullet hole through the building, because it's a steel building, it's right through it like a pop can. And I follow the trajectory, and I find it. I run upstairs to the loft, and I found that it hit a shelf. And then I dug through the crap, and I found the bullet. So I have 2 bullets that were shot at my building. The cops think probably just somebody driving down the freeway, wheeling neelies, just shooting guns.
You know, all those transplants from L.A.,
yeah,
they bring their habits with them.
Yeah. Well, it was funny as a joke. I'd tell everybody as a kid growing up in Caldwell, I'm not a very good shot unless you put me in a car. And then I'm a pretty good shot.
Okay. So bottom line is you feel pretty good with the state of police.
I do. I see presence. I see them all over town. Again, not much interaction with them. So sure. I can't tell you what their decorum is. The one thing I have with tickets and other things, I do believe training and de-escalation is important. The cop that showed up that day, he was super chill, but my building got robbed twice during construction and pre-Chief Ingram. And one of the officers that showed up, 2 of them showed up. One of them was pretty chill. The other one was in full tactical gear, I would say, as a civilian. I don't know if that is what it is, but very tactical looking. And he interrogated me like I was the thief.
Oh, like you were behind.
Yep.
It was an inside job.
Yep. And it was very upsetting, and it gives me a bad taste in my mouth for that kind of situation. Now, if something like that happened, I'd call Chief Ingram and say, we need to have a conversation about this.
Right.
Again, that was about 8 years ago, so pre him. But I do believe leadership from the top, and I think he's proven so far that he's a great leader, and you see that trickle down. Yeah. And I have a theory in that leadership from the top we can talk about sometimes. Pretty.
I dig.
Yeah.
I dig. Talk to me about traffic, right? Because this is something that people worry about a lot. It's not just traffic, but infrastructure in general. As the city grows, and this is one of the biggest gripes with growth, is traffic and infrastructure. So talk to me about the streets.
So I don't ever want to come off as flippant and dismissive. It's probably going to come off a little bit of that way, but I want to preference, in all due respect, that's not what I mean, or not how I'm trying to portray. Sure. Growth, name me one city, that massive growth that they walked through and said, we got this, right? It's always a mess, always a mess.
Right.
And we know in our industry, the first thing that comes is rooftops. Second thing that comes is commercial. Third thing that comes is the correction and the rebuilding and the larging up, the whatever of infrastructure, i.e. sewer, water, roads. And in the meantime, we're trying to make do with what we got. Trying to get developers to pay their share, builders, developers, all of that. And so you can't, I remember years ago, I bought a piece of equipment in Vegas, and I was out there. I get confused in the direction of Vegas, but let's just say North Vegas. And my son and I went to In-N-Out Burger, and There was this 6-lane road to nowhere. And I'm sure if you go there today, I couldn't identify that 6-lane road to nowhere. Right. It's completely built up. So they have the forethought. But there's not a taxpayer in the city of Caldwell that would say, let's widen 10th to say 3 lanes or 4 or 5 lanes, whatever we would do, when we don't have the growth to support the need of that. Right. So it's easy to say, let's build infrastructure before we allow more building, right? It's easy to say that, but there's not a taxpayer that's going to want to support that.
Right. Nobody wants to cut the check ahead of time.
Nope. So it's always reactionary. Do I like it? No. Is it just the normal, mostly normal norm? Yes. And it doesn't mean it's perfect, right? Growth is bad. Traffic is bad. I literally live 5 miles from my office, and there's days it'll take me 30 minutes to get there. You know what? I put on a podcast and I just chill.
Yeah.
Can I get mad about it? Again, born and raised here. I used to be able to make it to Boise in 20 minutes. Now I can do that at 4 a.m. I can't do it any other time. You just know. I gave myself an hour to get here today. I just knew, not having any idea where you were, I just knew traffic could be traffic. And I gave myself time. You got to be a little forethought, and the road construction is huge. There were days I couldn't get on the airport without going through cones. Right. I mean, literally, Ustick was closed, Linden was closed, aviation was closed, and I understand it. But we got to break some eggs to make a cake. It's short-lived. Have some patience, practice some, and just enjoy.
What's that? The Bad Boys?
Yes, woosah. That's it. Yeah, yeah. I need that. I was watching something the other day with that. Yeah. So, traffic is bad, and it's going to be bad for a minute. It's going to be bad for a hot minute. But you know what? We will get it figured out. Whether I'm elected to city council or not, it will get solved. It's just going to take time. Gotcha. And you got to have some practice, some patience. We are a growing city, 4th largest, I think, in the state, fastest growing in the state, I believe. That's going to come with growing pains. They're called growing pains for a reason. They're painful. Yeah. And I like to tell everybody, God blesses us with very short-term memories. This too will pass, because if he didn't, women would only have 1 child. And this will pass. It's bad now. That bridge at Ustick right by my office was tore up for 2.5 years. I hated every minute of it. Every minute of that 2.5 years. But it passed. Now it's closed again. It's my main way to get home. It will pass. It will pass.
I dig. Talk to me about the downtown economy. I mean, Caldwell has obviously Destination Caldwell. You got Indian Creek Plaza. You got a whole bunch of things going, and there seems to be really good pushes and organizations to keep that going. Do you have any additional ideas for more business development or business support to keep growing that economy?
More of the same. I tell everybody I'm as transparent as it comes. When that was first presented and that was all going to happen and they were tearing down the old Kings and what was going there, I was a naysayer. For them to say that money would work, they had to be rented 280 days a year or something like that. I'm kind of making numbers up. Yeah. You got an idea. And I'm like, how is we going to have an activity or an event 280 days a year? Well, you know what? They're doing it. And it's amazing. We have some of the best food. I will tell you, no ties to them whatsoever. I think we have literally the best sushi restaurant in the Treasure Valley in downtown Caldwell. We eat there all the time. When I was in LA for the Charger game, I ate sushi twice, and I'm like, this is nothing compared to Caldwell. We literally have the best sushi in the Treasure Valley.
What's this place called?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. It just changed names. I don't even.
God, I love sushi.
You come down and it'll be my treat. I will take you to sushi. It is so good. I can't even tell you what is so good about it. It just is so good. I love the people that work there. They're so friendly. I always try to get the same waitress, and she's just phenomenal. I walk in there. She goes, I have Red Bull today, because I'll drink a crown of Red Bull. I've got your Red Bull tonight. I'm like, set me up. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll come to sushi there, and then I'll take you to the Thai place.
Okay.
There's a really good Thai place. Boise Thai Noodle off Chinden.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Love Thai.
Big fan of Thai. And the lady, one of the owners that works there, it's just like lovely woman. First off, the place is tricked out big time. Beautiful decor. Like, you can tell the care and love these people put into it. And then just like the food is lit.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
So kind of on a similar basis down here, I did not do the sushi restaurant, but I've done several others. But I've made a point to be kind of a detective of old buildings because I've done maybe 1,200-year-old buildings between downtown Nampa and downtown Caldwell. And I love old buildings. I've made my office to look like an old building. I love it. And so when we're in there, I can show you the steel work and why they did things, and I give you more information than you want.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that building is phenomenal. It's a great building. It's a great people, great restaurant. Just love it.
So bottom line is more the same.
More the same.
They're obviously doing something right.
Yeah.
Like they have some really cool stuff going on, and just keep
Yeah.
supplying them with enthusiasm, make sure it keeps going.
There is. I mean, I went down there for a photo shoot for my campaign. There was a band going on. The one thing I could probably say, and again, I'm probably at a disadvantage not being a big Facebooker or social media guy whatsoever. I don't know how to get the word out even more, although there's a lot of people down there. But I show up. I have no idea what's happening. I just show up to show up. I know the farmer's market thing, and that's it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so maybe some better notice of that, but that's a one man's opinion. It could be dismissed easy. But anyway, but I love it because again, I remember when we only had a couple of Chinese restaurants and a couple of pizza places to eat down there, and a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and now we have some great. Amano's phenomenal.
Really good.
Really good.
Really good.
The sushi, I've already talked about that. And then we have Chop Shop. The barbecue is phenomenal there.
What about Chinese?
Chris does a great job.
You got any Chinese down there? Oh, no.
Yes.
Chinese. Oh,
no, we have 2 Chinese restaurants. They're old school. So that is my basis. One of the restaurants that's a little bit off downtown grew up on it. And it was funny. They used to be open till 2 or 3 in the morning. So that was always the place you would go to when the bars closed down and everything.
Yes.
It is every fried rice I either make or eat is gauged off of that. You may try it and say, this is the worst fried rice I've ever had, but for a Caldwell kid, it's the base. Everything is judged by
beef. You got Mongolian beef.
We do not have that down there, not yet.
No Mongolian beef at the Chinese food place? Oh.
Not that I'm aware of.
We got to call him. We got to call him after this and find out. So we're going to do a multi-stop. We're going to hit sushi. We're going to hit Mongolian beef. It's going to be something. Okay.
We'll do a food tour.
Talk to me about the last big question is about development, right? Because everybody talks about development. I had a builder on actually before you, and what's very interesting is development and growth is both the problem and the solution, right? So people are very upset about the amount of growth, and understand, and by the way, I'm part of it, I understand. People are upset about the growth and the building out of areas. They're also upset about the cost of homes and the cost of, and it's like, okay, well, we need more homes to on the supply side because the demand is not going away. People want to be here. This is a great spot. We can do, I mean, it's very hard to stop. You can do temporary moratoriums on growth, things like that, but that's not a great idea.
Swear word.
Yeah. So how is there a path forward where you think more people get what's going to make them happy, or is it just, hey, look, this is going to pass?
So yes and no, this too will pass, but in the industry I'm in, everything is, again, transparent, but it's also policies and procedures. If you come to me and say, Randy, I want to build X, whatever it is, first thing we do is we got to do plans. I can't give you a number off of a napkin. We can start with a napkin, but I got to do plans. So there's a process. Everything has to do. And I lay that process out very clearly for my clients. Half my job is to manage an expectation.
Yeah.
I got to manage people. I got to manage money. I got to manage timelines, and I got to manage entities like building, planning, zoning, etc. But I also got to manage expectations. And so from the beginning, we got to manage an expectation. I believe we need to have so at the airport, and we can go into the airport stuff or not, but we just spent 8 months doing a strategic plan. Okay. In 2020, the FAA and the city of Caldwell did a master plan, different from a comp plan, but it's a master plan for the Caldwell. And when we, as a chairperson of the airport board, John, a guy on the board that was a past CEO of some major companies and stuff like that. This is his world. It was so foreign to me. I had to pull John aside a couple of times and say, dude, I'm sorry. I'm so anti this. I just don't understand it. Because in my world, it's a dictatorship, right? And I'm that guy because it's my money, my risk. My employees have to follow suit. Now, I listen to what my employees have to say. They are going to take over my companies. So they're very valuable to me. So I don't dismiss them. But at the end of the day, I got to make the decision. So when it came time for the strategic plan at the airport. I knew nothing about it. So I had to 100% submit to John. You got to guide me through this. And we were 4 months into it before the light bulb clicked. And here's what he said. Randy, we have a 1,000-page set of blueprints, but we can only start with page 1. So right now, this strategic plan is to focus on page 1 through 10. And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I get it now. I don't need to worry about a roof plan. I don't need to worry about landscaping. I need to worry about excavation and foundation. So I think we need to do a similar process with our comp plan with the city. Where do we want to see the infill or the growth happen over the next 3 years or 5 years, and focus on that? I know when I watched Chuck's interview, he's super spot on. Farmway was a hard line. We never should have crossed Farmway. Hard line. We have hard lines to the south, hard lines to the north, to the east, and to the west. Let's focus on those before we annex in a lot more. And yeah, we got to annex in infill. And that project that he talked about that was a city council, they were spot on. The city council did absolutely the right thing because they listened to people and they listened to staff. And they did the absolute right thing. Now, I will tell you, on Facebook, the haters don't give them the credit for that. They give it that they're worried about their jobs and all this. No, they listened. They did the right thing. And so we need to, but if you have some policies and procedures in place that this is what we want to see, ergo, we don't want to see fourplexes next to $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 houses, whatever they were, it doesn't fit, like you said, like for like, then put that in a procedure. And it comes to either a checkbox or, like I said earlier, a yes or no. It's simple. You don't fit the criteria that we would like to see here. You're a no. Pure and simple. And I think that's something that a business mindset brings to the table because everything we do is policies and procedures. I can't call for an inspection until this is done. I can't get an electrical inspection until something else is done ahead of it. It's all policies and procedures. There's no guessing. It's even so bad in our building world that we're given a checklist of what to do, right? Get this inspection before this inspection. And so we can do the same thing. And it comes and it takes any emotion out of it. It takes any opinion out of it. And it becomes did you check the boxes? Do we meet the law? Do we meet where our intent is? Do we meet our policy, our procedures, whatever you want to call all of that conglomeration? And then it's a yes or a no. And it sounds simple, but it can be quasi-simple. Every project's its own project, and everything will have some exceptions. But we can get 90% there pretty easy. And the 10% may not even be relevant because you failed at the 90, so we don't even have to go any further, waste any more energy on it. And so growth is the solution. I'm this much information on HB 389. I don't like it. I think it handicaps when you have this growth, and I think that creates a problem. I only started learning about it when I watched one of your interviews, and so I've had to call people and learn about it.
It's wild.
It is wild. I'm sure it came from good intent,
of course,
like most things do, but sometimes people don't kick the can far enough down the road to see what the adverse effect is. You know, whatever goes up has to come down. And so that probably needs to be readdressed. And then this is an interesting concept too when it comes to schools. Somebody told me this the other day. I have not put a lot of time in it, but again, this is the kind of conversation I want to have. And let's just start dialogue about it. Somebody told me the other day when I went to Van Buren High School, elementary school, which was in downtown Caldwell. When I went to that, somebody else had already paid for that school. So my parents were paying property taxes to kind of either pay it back or pay it forward in the sense we got to build another school. So even though, because I don't have kids in the house, I'm one of those people. I'm an empty nester, but I'm still paying for schools. But I don't have animosity to that because my kids went to school and yeah, I paid property tax then, but that school was already built. It was already done. Those teachers were already hired. Those buses were already there. So somebody else had already paid for that.
Well, the salaries, you don't pay for the salaries up front. The salaries you got to pay every year for salaries.
Yeah, exactly. And the maintenance of the building and the continuing of the bus runs and stuff like that. And so when you have that little bit of could be totally wrong, but it's a conversation that's like, that makes a little, maybe even a lot of sense. Somebody else has already paid for it. So then is it my obligation as a citizen to pay for the school moving forward for maybe my grandkids, right? My daughter's here for right now, but she won't be long. She's leaving probably in October. But my son, he owns a house, 25 years old, and owns a house. Houses are not unobtainable. His dad's a builder. That helps. I didn't build the house, helped him remodel it. But there are ways to get into houses. You got to just think outside the box.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, even outside of, hey, how can my family directly benefit for my grandkids? Or like, hey, the whole argument for a collective good or a community good no longer holds weight with the average American. Like it worked in the 70s and 80s. It doesn't really work now.
No.
But the actual argument for an individual value proposition for schools is, look, we can all stop funding schools right now instantaneously and say, hey, look, whoever wants to educate their kids, you do you. You had the kid, it's on you, baby. You do it. But what you're going to have to be ready to do is in 18 years, welcome in a wave of crime, theft, prostitution, drugs, because if you don't offer education to people, there will be a large swath of people that do not receive a high enough, call it education, call it training, call it world knowledge, to offer something valuable back to the community. So they will default to what people do when they're illiterate, when they have no skills. Like, this is a very, very well understood thing. Like, how many people, like, you're never going to see somebody with a PhD in computer science who also is a prostitute.
Nope.
It's like that lady can get a job anywhere she wants. She's not going to be, but you're going to find people that are prostitutes that have nothing else to offer the world. It's not like they have these tremendous capacities, be it, in design or engineering or whatever it is. And they're like, oh, I also just turn tricks. It's like, no, you have nothing else. It's that kind of investment, which is, I want to keep my community crime free.
Yep.
Or crime low. I want to keep prostitution down. I want to keep drugs out. I want to have an economy that's based on people making legal exchanges for labor and intellectual property for money, so that we can all supply ourselves with whatever. And again, you get into this with literacy rates in third grade, right? Like, if you're not reading and 100% literate by third grade, man, probability of you ending up incarcerated skyrockets.
Absolutely.
And so that's why the early literacy pushes. It's like, listen, it might cost the state $10,000 more for early literacy intervention, but you're going to save on incarceration costs and problems down the road. Like, the ROI is profound.
It's profound. And it's that whole invest now.
Yeah.
I have a theory when I buy equipment or, different things, buy once, cry once, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to pay more money now,
right,
but that's going to last me 10 times longer, twice as long, whatever that is. And I'm a tool junkie. You come to my shop, you'd be like, holy cow, dude, you got tools. I believe that in tools. I just 1000% believe it in tools. And I still have drills that are cordless stuff that's 14 years old. And I replaced the stuff when I did that was 15 years old,
Right.
And so that whole cry once, buy once, and it goes true to exactly what you say. It's expensive. Education's super expensive, probably the most expensive thing in the state of Idaho. But it's the investment for future that's going to save us money far down the road. Yeah. And when those people, I tell everybody, look, I did my part. I have 2 kids out there giving to the community. They're contributing to taxes.
Right.
They're both working. I've done my part. Now I've got 2 more taxpayers on my, so here we are. Now there's 3 of us. Well, and my ex-wife 4. So there's 4 of us. So as we move forward. So
I dig.
Yeah.
Listen, I do not want to shortchange you. You've been wanting to talk about the airport. I don't know squat about the Caldwell airport. Hit me with your issues.
So no issues.
Okay, great.
Our airport is a gym.
It is a gym.
It's a gym. There's, just like everything, there's people that don't like the growth and the activity.
Sure.
Don't 100% quote me on all my numbers, because I could get a little flubber-busted here. We're just under 600 aircraft based there. We're the 6th largest, I think, in the nation. That could be a misnomer, so don't attack me if I'm wrong.
6th largest airport?
For GA, for our 6th busiest, for our size that we fit in.
Oh, gotcha.
So
I was like, what about LA?
No, those are commercial airports.
Got it.
Never factor in.
Gotcha.
We will never have a Delta, Horizon, or anything ever land in Caldwell.
Southwest ain't going to Caldwell.
People like to throw that out there on Facebook. It'll never happen. We don't have on-site services, meaning no fire, no paramedics. Our runway is only 8 inches of paving, not 18 inches of concrete. There's a lot there. We're in a process right now called the Tower Program. It's roughly a 5-year program. We're about a year and a half into it, where we will get a tower, and we want a tower. Now, there's still, again, a lot of people that don't understand why, because they're not getting themselves educated, but we need a tower. We are definitely a little bit of a Wild West rodeo out there. There are days that there might be 7 aircraft in the traffic pattern doing touch and goes.
Right.
A lot of schools out there. We have one of the largest schools in the Northwest that are based in Caldwell for both fixed wing and rotary. And they're great. They're a great partnership with the airport, partnership with Caldwell. They employ a lot of people and fly a lot of students through there. That partnership is great. And so we're in that program. We were supposed to know this fall, if notice of funding, that we would qualify to start the process for funding a tower. We haven't heard that yet, of course, with Trump and Doge, and there's so much still up in the air. We're hoping we still see that by the end of the year. But what that'll mean is we'll put, if we get selected, that the FAA, or a funding mechanism of the federal government, will pay about 90% of this tower, roughly $17 million, give or take a little. That'll become an asset for the city of Caldwell. The FAA will man the tower. We have to contribute the 10%, and we have to maintain the building. So there are still some ongoing costs. But what that does do is it opens up our airport for more private and business class jets. Now, why do we want private and business class jets? Well, when you have your Cessna pilot, and we have 598 fixed aircraft there that are probably 575 of those are a class like you and I would own, a Moonie, a Cessna, whatever. And then there are some PC-12s and some King Airs out there and a couple of private jets. So, and there's probably 20, 30 of those, maybe, I would guess. So, but here's the difference. And I own several hangars, and when I put an airplane in my hangar, it's just me, my airplane, my hangar. I don't employ anybody. I don't have a pilot. But if I was fortunate enough that I could afford a $7 million PC-12, I would have to hire a pilot. I'm going to hire somebody to maintain that aircraft, meaning he's going to move it in and out. And the pilot could do that, but still I'm creating more. Now, my pilot may live in Caldwell and he may not, but he's still going to travel to Caldwell. He's probably going to eat lunch in Caldwell. He's going to fuel up his car in Caldwell once in a while. He's going to spend economic value in Caldwell. But the biggest thing is, too, when I go to fly my airplane, I'm going to leave with 1,500 gallons of fuel, and the airport gets a fuel flowage fee. When I fly my current airplane, I leave with 35 gallons of fuel. So a big difference, right? In my airplane, I can fly a long ways on 35 gallons. That PC-12 or King Air is going to suck that fuel pretty quick. And so there's a lot of reasons why we want that bigger based aircraft. It brings a lot more industry, meaning people that maintain the planes, avionics, all of that. And then charter's getting to be bigger and bigger. More and more money, more and more people are wanting to do charter. So it's a good thing. We want to leave the south side of the airport very what we would own, and then we want to leave the north side very
not what we would
own.
G5 swinging at the knee.
Yes, exactly. Very much so. Yeah, I had a guy.
That was that line from Tropic Thunder, right?
Yeah,
Tom Cruise.
I had a guy talk to me because I'm building some hangars out there, and he was bringing a G4, and I had to get online and look it up, and I was like, holy cow. And he was upset because our runway needs to expand. We're 5,500 feet, and we want to end up at like 6,900 feet or something like that. And because a lot of these aircraft can't leave fully wet, full of fuel, they have to take half a tank, and then they'll fly to, Wyoming, Salt Lake, wherever, maybe Boise, stop, blah, blah, blah. Well, we don't want to lose that. Anyway, he was mad because he couldn't fly from Caldwell to Florida in one stop because he can't leave here. And so I looked up that aircraft and everything, and I was like, holy smack, this is next level wealth here. That's like an $8,000 flight just to Florida in fuel alone, let alone how you maintenance it, pilot, fuel alone. And I'm like, wow, 1%er, like one of the 1%. Yeah. So anyway, I think
it sounds like what you're saying is the investment in the airport is one of those unrecognized economic drivers that it's like, listen, just in tax revenue coming out of the fuel consumed would be profound.
Well, let me go a little deeper. And again, I want everybody to understand these are generality numbers. They're close within 10% because I get so many numbers put at me. So when I first started testifying to the city council, it was because they were doubling our lease rate. And I would go to the city council and I'd say, look, we entered into a 20-year agreement here. Yes, you have the right to raise my lease. It says that clearly in the lease. I'm not arguing that. But do you have the fundamental belief that you should double it? I'm not saying raise it, but I mean double it. And they literally doubled it. And that's what got me having dialogue with several of the city council because they liked the way I handled it. So anyway, here we are. When I first started testifying with them, the airport was always running in the red. And we were getting comments like, why are we subsidizing a hobbyist airport? You know, there's a lot of people that can't afford to fly. You're a pilot. You have money. Figure it out. Well, what they weren't doing is they weren't giving us the property tax credit, if you will. I want to be careful how I say this. I told them how the property tax is collected and what you do with the money out of my pay grade. Don't care. Kind of like when I give my tithe to a church, you're going to be held responsible by the Lord for what you do with it. I'm just told to give. I pay my taxes. What you do with it's on you. But the amount of property taxes that's collected because of the hangars on the airport needs to be at least accounted for in a column for the airport. The money may not go to the airport, which it does now. Thank you, City Council. They've done a great job there. But at the time, it wasn't. But at least needs to be accounted. And I believe that number is $268,000. That is the portion that Canyon County gives back to the city of Caldwell for the property taxes collected on the airport.
Right.
So when we're running an $80,000 deficit, now all of a sudden we're getting $268,000 because of the airport, that property tax would not be collected. And it could be argued
You're not running in the red then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This year we hired an aviation director of aviation a couple years ago. We got some more equipment. We have a guy that his whole job is to maintain the airport. And so we really stepped up the black or the red ink for the airport. This year we were within $5,000 of a balanced budget. Come on. That's a balanced budget in anybody's book. And we are just going to continue to get better. So, and Chuck used to do this, and he listened when I said, don't compare us. He would like to compare us to the airport or to the golf course. And I finally sat him down. And I said, Chuck, we're nothing like a golf course because by future growth on this airport, we bring more property taxes.
Right.
A golf course doesn't bring property taxes. So anyway, right now, we're going to have to make some big investments into the airport. It could be to the tune of $5 million over the next 5, 6, 7 years. And that is, I'm lump summing a whole lot of capital improvements in it. But what ITD Aviation tells us that our airport, 30 minutes from the center of our runway, has a $56 million economic impact to the surrounding area. And Chuck and I have had a lot of conversation about this, and I'm 100% agree with it. Boy, $56 million seems like a lot. Cut it in half. Cut it even a quarter. Yeah. Does $12 million still say our airport has economic impact? Does to me. Tell me different. Educate why I shouldn't see it that way. And so when we're going to the city, and we just did our strategic plan, the city council just voted and approved it the last city council meeting. That does not mean they've approved any funding. We still have to go back for individual capital improvement funding. But we did ask for about this $5 million based in different things. We're going to need about $1.5 million to $2 million for the tower. We need about $3 to $3.5 million for the north side infrastructure because nobody can bite off that big of a chunk to put in sewer water and not shut everybody out. We got 100% control of this airport over here. Well, we don't want to give up that control. But we show, not even counting, we're using pretty conservative numbers, basically land lease and property tax alone. We're not talking fuel flowage. We're not talking about economic driver. We're just talking about land lease and fuel flowage, land lease and property tax only. We can pay that $5 million back in about 16 years. That's big. Name one other asset in the city of Caldwell that you put $5 million into, you get that money back in 16 years, and then it's profitable. Now, in the private sector, I would maybe raise my eyebrows. A $5 million investment paid back in 16 years. Maybe that's not quite what I want, but it's going to be right there on the verge. And I'm going to have a lot of conversations with a lot smarter people to say, do we want to invest in this for a payback in 16 years? And so that's a big thing, and that education has to happen because the airport, a lot of people say, why are we subsidizing a hobbyist airport still today? But we're not. We're not subsidizing anything, and truly it is an economic driver. I like to tell everybody it's our shining star thing. The downtown plaza is very much when you do those cartooning maps, you see the downtown, but the airport's got its own right. It's not as pretty and not as shiny, and it's not as cool. we don't have as many cool activities, but it still is a big thing for the city. And the city is starting to see that. And this city council has been very, very receptive to coming to our meetings and learning and listening, not just talking to me, talking to all, users out there. The ones that still want a grass runway and dirt floors in their hangar, they're out there. But when they say they don't want growth, it's kind of like Caldwell. I want Caldwell to be what Caldwell was in 1990. Well, those days are gone. They're gone. Now you just got to embrace what we've got, and hopefully we can steer it correctly. And I feel the same way about the airport. So no, I have a lot of love for the airport.
I can feel it. I can feel the love.
Yeah.
Randy, listen, I appreciate you, my guy. We're out of time.
Okay.
I really appreciate you coming in, sharing the information. I learned a lot in this conversation. And I just appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
You're bringing a lot of civility to this, and the fact that you and Chuck are opponents and you're both really on the same page and supporting each other to the degree that you are, I just appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, man, thank you for coming in. Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you.